So my name is Robin Stevens. I'm Head of Marketing Services for Aviva Investors. I've been with the company now just under 2 years, but I've been with Aviva Group just under 10 years. Just kind of touching on your point about kind of skills, etc. I mean, I think we can totally empathise with that because of the kind of the nature of the business that we operate in, and trying to make sure that you've got capability to deliver what we've tried to deliver over the last year or so. So we'll touch on that more. It's a really interesting point.
Okay, I'm Dominic Wilson. I've been with Aviva for 7 years, been with Aviva Investors for 4 years, and basically I'm responsible for all things transformation and distribution space, which includes our digital agenda. That's it for me.
And talk to us a bit about the early part of the journey. What kind of things happen in the early days of where you are now, and what did you have to think about?
I'll go first. I joined Aviva Investors just under 2 years ago. As part of my team, but sitting on the side of the desk, you do a number of different things. So one of my teams looks after digital, and that by team I mean 2 people. So we've got a very antiquated, out-of-date site that had turned into a PDF repository for kind of the also-ran stuff. So things just said, oh yeah, you need to put it on the website as well. So stuff just got put on there, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the poor guy that had been looking after it for about 6 years, we likened him to the guy running around the space station. He was fixing bits and patching things up, and it just stopped working after a while. There was so much out-of-date content on there. So we genuinely need to do something from a marketing perspective, certainly from a customer perspective.
So given that we had that internal backdrop, we also had a new CEO in Mark Wilson, who joined Aviva in January of 2013. And one of the first things he said was digital first. Okay, so everybody, well, what's digital first? And all those who had digital in their role title started beavering away and thinking, right, I've got I've got carte blanche to go and do what I want to do. So what you saw was these pop-ups of activity around the organisation. Quite disruptive, but not necessarily in a positive sense, because they weren't joined up. And basically this activity had been going on and actually created a bit of a problem for us, because we had a very clear problem we were trying to fix, and this was real mud that was kind of foggy in the waters as we tried to kind of get some investment. Do you want to add a little bit more on, from your perspective there?
Yeah, I think it basically, I mean, Mark Wilson turned up and he kind of threw this challenge out and said, right, we're going to be digital first. And there was just lots of head scratching. People just were trying to comprehend what that meant, particularly in the insurance industry and then in the asset management industry. I mean, our customer base traditionally, certainly on the institutional side, very much like the professional services customer, in the sense that it's all B2B. Their engagement with you has primarily been through relationships, through the business development growth that you kind of make. So from our senior leadership team perspective, there was lots of, we've got a website, surely that's enough. What else do we need to do? So yeah, it was challenging, I'd say.
I mean, there was real confusion making the delineation between a new brand and digital. Senior members of our exec kind of, they really thought, are we getting a new site? When are we getting a rebranding? And they thought that was digital. Yeah,
because of course you guys have recently gone through a rebrand.
Yes.
So how did that factor into your digital journey?
Oh gosh, on that side of the desk. Yeah, I mean, we've been in a very lucky position this year as a business. After many years of kind of underinvestment, we have started to kind of turn the cogs more towards growth, as I'm sure a lot of professional service industries have. So we needed to establish ourselves as independent from the insurance business, as an asset manager, as a proper grown-up business, certainly in the likes of Standard Life, etc. All businesses that had kind of really generated this asset management brand. So I guess, I mean, we were doing this, we spoke to our customers, we engaged with our customer groups through the rebrand piece, and that also gave us an opportunity to talk to them about how they wanted to be engaged. So talk to them about the website, talk to them about digital, what benefits it would have, really start to kind of feed into the genesis of something, so that we could start to explore other options and actually start to present some facts back.
So you had a rebrand.
Yep.
You got a group chief executive saying digital first, and you had a website that you thought was a PDF repository.
Yep.
So what were the things that you thought, right, okay, these are the things that we need to do first to get this thing moving? What did you pick off first? Go on, Robin. You go Robin first. Go on.
What did we pick off first? So we, as I say, we spoke to our customers. I think that was for us one of the most important things, was because you'll see things like this, you'll come to presentations like this, you will talk to agencies like RM, and they will, it's all about digital, and it is, but fundamentally it also has to be about the customer. It also has to be about how they want to engage with you. I think there is something really important about that when you start this piece of work off. When we started our piece of work off, was to engage with our customers on this. The next thing we did was talk to Dom, really, and we started to put together a business case. We had to obviously bid for money, we had to bid for resource, so we started to kind of promote and sell the idea, talk about what we wanted to do, and that's where we...
Yeah, so that's kind of where my role came in. So I'm the gatekeeper for transformational spend in the distribution space. So I manage a budget of around about 15 million. And we very quickly recognised we had a skills gap. We mentioned the skills gap there. And we started scouring the market for good CVs, and we actually recruited a project manager with digital on his CV. What we very quickly realised is that digital to one person is very much something different to someone else. We made a few mistakes there, if I'm absolutely honest. But basically, what we had to do is kind of mobilise a group of like-minded individuals who could kind of get some momentum behind this. And it was more about kind of people being open to new ideas and just generally kind of be ready for change. We mentioned embracing change earlier on, but it was a team of individuals who weren't coming in with just their own ideas, but were ready to embrace change.
And how did you, I guess, something most of our customers find a challenge is getting their senior execs to buy into what it is that needs to be done. How do you guys go about that?
I suppose from a marketing perspective, they were all. It's very difficult, and again, as the guys have spoken about, people's lives outside of work are very different. They live in the first world. They do all these things, and then they go to work and they turn their computer on in the morning, and it might take a minute to start up. They might go on a website. It's probably been banned. So it's kind of a whole sort of different thing. So again, our exec had been on a number of these kind of induction and kind of introduction pieces, and we were all very excited. They were all, what can we do? When can we have it? When's my site going to be live? Can we have an app? And apps, my God, I mean, as soon as you talk about apps, people want an app for something or other. So yeah, it was for us, it was more about managing expectations, and managing about what we could deliver, how we could deliver it, when we could deliver it, and how much it's going to cost. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the key points. Anybody who knows the history of Aviva know that we've had a turbulent number of years. So we ended up in a situation whereby we basically couldn't spend a pound without getting group executive involvement. And bearing in mind our group executive represents all the different business areas, the fact that Aviva Investors are coming along asking for X amount of pounds to kind of invest in their digital journey, the people who are making the decisions might have sat in other business areas. So we had to build a compelling business case. And one of the real challenges is you can kind of excite people, get them emotional about the future, but actually in reality is you've got to deliver on that foundation level. So you can't really turn around and say, hey guys, imagine a world with kind of everybody's got an app for their personal preferences, personalisation, etc. If that's a couple of years away, knowing that you need to get the money today for the foundation layer. So that was a real challenge. Also, a number of those people making the decision were the real bean counters of the organisation. So what we had to do is we had to put a compelling business case across in numbers, and we found a way to do that. And I'll quite happily answer questions on that later on. Really it was about selling the business cases to multiple audiences. So we had to get the level of excitement, managing expectations at the right level. So look what the future can bring us, but actually this is what we're going to be delivering today. We had to talk about how we were going to deliver it. So we spoke about agile delivery. Show of hands who's familiar with agile delivery. Okay, so most of you are familiar with that. So incremental change, so they could see some real value. But we also had to kind of make sure we had a solid financial business case behind that.
And as you start to move into this journey, what things did you notice about, let's say, the team and the environment that you're in? What changed?
Gosh, I mean, we were starting from a fairly low base in terms of digital knowledge and capability. I think, as I say, we had the guy running around with his spanner fixing the space station. So it was a little bit about cultural change, making sure that people got what we were trying to do, but not just, I guess, not from a digital perspective necessarily, but also it's kind of more of a channel to market. So not sitting it as this mysterious thing that was like it had been treated to before. Oh, it needs to go on the website. It was about trying to engage people across the whole business so that they were all involved. So we got quite a lot of people involved from a number of different business areas to kind of be in some of the projects and the workshops and the sessions. But also, you know, we were developing our own talent. We had people who had no digital experience, to your point, who were marketeers, who were business analysts, you know, project guys, people who showed an interest, who knew some of the other wider, broader marketing skills, who could apply those through the channel, and then you stick the digital veneer on it. It's, you know, it's not. It was about demystifying it, but also enabling people to grow.
Yeah, I think a key area for me was we had to manage expectations going up. We had to manage the team below, that they weren't, you know, that they were actually on the journey as opposed to kind of reacting to needs that were further down the journey. We also recognised this is quite new for us, so there was kind of requests coming in from lots of different places. We're managing, we're a large, you know, behemoth of an organisation that we had to kind of deal with, you know, the enterprise architects, etc. Basically everybody had to find a natural role. So you can kind of sit there early doors and say, right, you're the project manager or the BA, etc. But actually everything was coming in from everywhere. And it was really important that we found a team of individuals who wouldn't create those kind of towers within the project, but understand that, you know, you can't know everything on this journey, and you have to kind of place a lot of trust and empower people. We've certainly seen, you know, a member of Robin's team, and certainly a member of my team, who were fairly junior members of the team, have really stepped up. You know, they're probably closer to the Generation Z than we are. It means more to them, only just. They've kind of understood that journey to them. It's one of the few projects, I guess, that you can really talk about personal preferences. You know, normally a project team kind of delivers something on behalf of the business, but because this was new to everybody is a consumer, everybody is a customer, everybody's used Amazon, everybody's used Etsy, you know, some people are familiar with Airbnb, etc., and they can bring in all those personal preferences into the hopper. They wouldn't necessarily get addressed on day one, but we could prioritise that, and that's really where agile delivery, you know, came into its own.
What about challenges? What were the things that you encountered during this that were actually quite difficult and you wish you hadn't had to deal with?
Budget. Dom. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, so whatever budget you set, it's never going to be enough, especially if you kind of have people thinking huge the whole time. So for us, the challenge was about that, managing expectations and just being clear on what we want to achieve in phases. So we've established a foundation phase where we move our current website, we're developing the content, we're developing the proposition, and building that on a new content management system. So we're rebuilding the site. We've got a fantastic opportunity to start from scratch. So we're not fixing anymore. We're creating something new on a new content management system. Yes, it wasn't cheap, and Don will talk about that in a minute. But it gave us an opportunity to do something quite unique for us. I think other challenge is just time. It's just the amount of time it is when you are working in smaller teams, when you are trying to make every person count, trying to get everything done. We were doing the rebrand as well. So
I think, you know, one of the big areas challenge for us is we have a centralised IT function across the organisation, and we were being very much directed by them with regards to our CMS solution. What we hadn't, or what we probably underestimated, was that solution hadn't reached the level of advocacy within the wider IT organisation. So although we were, I wouldn't say we was married to that solution, but we had to kind of go there after many iterations of looking at, you know, well, basically they advised the tier 1 solution. We had an alternative solution, so they advised tier 2 solutions. If everybody,
which we still didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody's familiar with tier 1, tier 2 solutions. If you're not, I'll just explain.
John knows lots of project
yeah,
words.
so I'll explain. So tier 1 was the number one solution as recognised by enterprise architects, and tier 2 were tier 2 are. Tier 2 were the other solutions they might tolerate because there's enough usage in the business, etc. And we were on another solution altogether. We had initially, when we wrote our strategic roadmap, we had to get some idea of funding for these projects, and there was a big gap between the funding we had available because that was to build out our existing solution as opposed to kind of going for the enterprise solution. So despite going around the houses a number of times and fighting back, we ended up going with the tier 1 solution because they'd moved that from an on-premise kind of solution to a cloud solution, and as part of that we had to kind of bring up our internal team's knowledge of kind of cloud solutions, get people unmarried from the on-premise solutions, and we had to kind of jump through all the loops within our own organisation, bearing in mind that our own CEO had said digital first. All these other projects had kicked up, so our digital capability was focusing on the things that weren't necessarily in roadmaps, and it was basically around cajoling the relevant troops and bringing them to a place to help us.
Right. Momentum. How did you keep it with this project? Because there's obviously so much stuff going on. How did you keep the focus?
Well, we're still keeping the focus, aren't we? I mean, we try and we have a clear path. I think we've tried to create a clear path, and we're still creating a clear path. I mean, we are working towards our foundation, and we're also developing our next 12 months worth of digital strategy, our roadmap for the next 12 months, to establish what we can then start to do to integrate with things like Salesforce, CRM systems, video, start to push out content. We're working with the ORM guys around our whole content strategy as well. I suppose keeping momentum. Again, a lot of the younger guys on the team were really excited about this. This is a fantastic project to work on. I think we try and keep people energised by having a bit of fun, enjoying what we do. I mean, it's like I say, it's something really, really different, and I think that's the important part, is to keep people going in that way.
Yeah, I would add to that. So I think there's been a healthy dose of luck. We've managed to bring. Well, I say luck. We've had people come onto the program. We've had partners come onto the program. We've had to exit. We've got a team at the moment, which is a cross-functional kind of implementation team, digital agency, business team, IT team, and transformation team that have come together, and they're really kind of working very closely together. We, by using the agile kind of delivery techniques, we can kind of have the show and tells fortnightly, so people can see it's it really moving, even though we haven't gone into full release yet. We basically allow people to go off and they go to different summits, etc. So they're bringing back the ideas. They feel they're part of something special. They're getting probably treated in a way that they wouldn't necessarily get treated on other projects. There's no end to those kind of things. I mean, I would say that it's a good, healthy environment. It's probably the team that works the longest hours in the organisation at the moment. But everybody's like, they're married to the future. Another thing I would add. I mean, we spoke about digital strategy and digital roadmaps. What was very clear to us early on. There's no point in planning too far into the future. We've spoken about the digital curve earlier on with regards to, was it 7 years for 50% of people to be on smartphones? There's no point in having a 5-year digital roadmap. Just look at the next 2 years, because the world's going to be significantly different.
And I know you're not complete in your digital journey yet, but what would you say were your successes so far? What are the results so far?
So I'd say probably the best thing, most satisfying thing for me is, so we've now got a problem that's a really nice problem to have. We've got key members of staff who've really stepped up. They've developed their skills gaps. They're not necessarily technical skills, but skills of understanding what the consumer needs are, customer needs. And I envisage, and we'll have to have a word with Lorenzo about this, but I envisage his organisation trying to poach a couple of our people in the future. That's not an open ticket. But that's a really nice problem to have. So this is people who we saw potential in, who've really stepped up. They're excited to come into work. They're much more vocal, and they're the ones who are really adding the value to the momentum. And if we can hang on to those guys and keep them motivated, we're in a really good place. I think the real concern is if this project stops, and hopefully it won't, because we see further phases naturally of this, but if we can kind of keep the team together, but if we lose somebody and they go on to, say, some regulatory project or something, I can imagine them just exiting left.
Yeah, I suppose, all that good stuff. But it's also, for me, it's about, what excites me is about the potential and the success that we can have with our customers going forward. And I think for me, it'll be about opening up that engagement and opening up that ability to explore and trial and look at some of the things that Andy was talking about as best practice. I guess it's the potential. It's having this foundation done so that we can then move forward and think about how we might innovate, how we might be different, how we can step forward bravely.
I mean, I would say that's one of the key successes. Once your foundation is in, it's very difficult for people to take it away from you. So we have a saying we use. I'm sure other organisations use it, but you want to sweat the assets. So now that we have our content management solution in place, we want to make sure we're optimising the value that we've invested in that, and we're not going to do that by standing still.
Dom's got a calendar with all these, which you can get in the foyer.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, I'll use my marketing friend here to.
Thanks, guys. Look, what about advice? Not to me, but what advice would you give these guys?
How long have we got?
Thanks. These guys on, some people here, it sounds like, are on, right at the beginning of a digital journey. I'm sure there's some of you that are kind of in a transition, and some have probably just got a massive budget, just want to go full steam ahead. But what would you say, based on your experience, keep in mind?
Well, I think it's all those points. It's planning around each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great having champagne money and beer taste, or beer taste and champagne money. It's knowing what you can achieve and exciting people as to what the potential of that could mean for your organisation. I think we didn't always have a big pot of money. We had a tiny amount of money when we first started it. We have a very small digital marketing budget as well. Actually, the money that we've got, we've begged Dom for to develop the site. So our aspirations were always kind of limited that, but I think what going through this whole kind of 2-year project has taught me is not to limit with the budget, is to think about the things that you can do. And once you do know how your customer wants to be engaged with, you can do that any number of ways through your website and through the channels that you contact them with. So I think content is king.
Yeah, mine, I guess, relates to skills, and be very cautious of anybody who says they know everything about digital, because they just don't. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you start building those in-house teams, they're going to go stale fairly quickly. So we've got a partner model. We use our partners very carefully. I would say that when you go into a partner model, screen them very carefully, do the chemistry tests on them, understand that they know what they're talking about, and I don't want to introduce kind of time and lag, etc., into a project, but if you get that right, you'll save yourself no end of pain later on.